guess. We got some we got some celebrities in attendance for this panel. Look at that. Shatner's gonna love this. Okay, let's take a quick poll here. I think I'm gonna know where you're gonna lean on this, but any Halo fans? Okay. Well, actually, that panel is on the other. No, I'm just kidding. You're at the right place. Everybody, make some noise for Steve Downs.
How are you, Tanner?
Hey, great, Steve. A lot of Halo fans.
Hey, folks.
We've already done we've got Master Chief. Is that what that is? Yeah, that's right. That's not? I thought that was a Master Chief helmet you're holding. Oh, okay.
He's close.
Close.
He actually might be the enemy, but...
Sorry.
I do have one request before we get started. I need a weapon. Anybody?
A lot of clapping, not a lot of weapons being delivered. Jeez.
Not a lot of weapons.
That's not a joke. That was a serious question. Well, it's cool to chat with you, man. I know. So your story before you became involved with the Halo, I guess, franchise. We've done how many? Have you kept track of how many times you've played this character?
Well, I've played the character 6 times.
6.
So in all the numbered games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and pretty soon 6.
You also did you not appear as?
I had a little thing in Reach.
Okay.
I think I was the guy who was double kill, triple kill. I did that for Reach. That was my. And then there's ODST, which I didn't have any role in, and Halo Wars, which I didn't have. But so there's a lot of different moving parts, but the main games, I was the voice of Master Chief for all of them. So.
And how did that find its way to you? Like, what's the story there? Because what's your background? I guess you did a little bit of radio.
I was a disc jockey for 44 years.
A little bit. I was being nice.
A little bit. Being nice.
A little bit of radio.
That. Thank you.
44 years.
44 long years. But it's one of those happy accidents that there's an actor friend of mine whose best advice was always never get out of line, because you never know when that you turn that corner and the opportunity of a lifetime awaits you. So back in 2000, Bungie, who was the originator of the game, was based in Chicago where I worked. And Marty O'Donnell, who was did all the voice casting and wrote and performed a lot of the music in the first 3 games, used to listen to me on the radio. And he called me about voicing a character in a very small little PC game called Septerra Core, which I would recommend nobody buy. Even if you can find it, do not get it. But it introduced me to Marty, and it introduced me to video games, and about a year later he called again and said, told me about Halo and wanted me to voice the character. And the strange part about it is that it's obviously the biggest role of my life, but it's the only role that I never auditioned for, which is a little strange because voice actors in general spend most of their life auditioning and spend most of their lives being told no. Sometimes no thank you. Usually you don't hear anything at all, you just don't get the gig. But Halo was one of those things where it just, right place, right time.
It usually ends with a, that's great, thanks.
Thanks a lot, have a nice day.
Yeah, and that's it. There goes a week of your time.
That's right.
It's so cool that's how, I guess, having done a little tiny, role prior to that, when you were kind of coming into this, this whole Halo thing, did you kind of think it was going to be just something like that? Or were you aware of the potential magnitude that this would?
No idea. And I would venture to say not only was I not aware of it, I don't think Bungie was aware of it. In fact, I don't really think they had a solid plan for Halo 2. I think they really approached it as kind of a one-off sort of deal. And then Combat Evolved was such a huge success that, they came, Microsoft came back and said, okay, well, when's Halo 2? And they're, yeah, Halo 2, right, okay, get right back to you on that. and back to the drawing room and few years later, Halo 2 came out. But I had no idea how successful it was going to be. In fact, some of you may have heard this story, but months later, I was visiting a friend in Florida, actually her brother, and the kids were playing Halo. And I had completely forgotten about the job. It completely was out of my mind. I don't even remember what the name of the character was. But it struck a note when I saw him playing the game, and I said, I think I voiced a character in that game. And they, what? And I said, yeah, who was it? I said, I don't really remember his name, but I think he was kind of the main guy of the game. And they said, Master Chief, and I said, yeah, it was Master Chief. Literally 15, 20 minutes later, there's about 30 kids outside this guy's door carrying an Xbox or a copy of the game and wanting it autographed. And that was really my first inclination that we had a tiger by the tail, and off we went.
Wow, and is there a pressure, being a part of this game to also be good at this game yourself?
Thankfully not.
Okay.
When people ask me about playing the game, the very first time I ever made an appearance on behalf of Halo or Master Chief was, I think it might have been after Halo 2, and there was a GameStop opening down in Fort Lauderdale. And the guy called me up and said, would you come down and, make an appearance and help us open the store and whatever. And I said, yeah. I said, but I have two conditions. Number one, I don't dress up as the character. And number two is I don't play the game. And they said, fine. Well, he ignored the second thing. And unbeknownst to me, they were having a contest, the winner of which was going to play me at Halo. And when I found out, I said, dude, I told you I don't play the game. I'm horrible at it. I tried, I suck, I can't. This is going to be a disappointment to whoever thinking they're going to be playing some really world-class player. And he said, don't worry about it. We have a pro, literally a professional Halo player behind the curtain. He'll have the real controller, you'll have a dummy controller, and you just hit buttons and, make noises, and, it'll be fine. All right. So
that's like a Milli Vanilli thing right there.
That was my Milli Vanilli moment. Yeah.
Milli Vanilli of gaming, right?
That's
there.
right, that's me.
Wow, that's you,
me.
That's awesome.
So this 11-year-old girl wins the contest to play me at Halo. And even with the pro player behind the curtain, she cleaned our clock in about 10 seconds, and I'm not exaggerating. Beat us. And you have never been so humiliated to have some 11-year-old girl look at you like, really? You're Master Chief. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit humiliating and justified my condition that I never played the game in public. However, in my defense, I found out, actually not too long ago, that the girl went on to be a professional Halo player and apparently did very well and made lots of money. So at least I got beat by somebody good. But actually, anybody could have beat me.
Well, I'm sure that was a giant confidence booster for her too.
Maybe it was.
Maybe that's what you helped her get there.
Or maybe it was, God, this is easy. If I can beat this chump, I can beat anybody.
There you go. That's so. And now to get into the character, and as a voice actor, what's the process? Do you like a little honey, a little tea? Do you scream? Like how do you step into that role?
I had a voice coach years ago talk about that very thing, because the thing about voice acting is that's why when people ask, I want to be a voice actor and what should I do, and the first thing I say is one of the best things you can do is take an improv class, because most of the time with acting in general, but certainly from my experience with voice acting, you got to be able to hit the ground running. You walk into your agent's office or a casting place and they hand you a script and you got about 5 minutes to figure out who you are, what your approach is going to be, and all that. So having some improv skills is a real good example of that. And her tip to me was to find something tangible that reminds you of the character. And for me, and it doesn't matter what it is. It can be an old shirt, or it could be a hat, it could be, whatever, piece of jewelry. For me, it was a pair of cowboy boots. And not these, but I had another pair that were disgustingly old. And I happened to be wearing them the first time I did the first takes for Combat Evolved. So they became my boots, you know, and when I would put them on, it generated something. It's like a mindset that like you're getting back. It's like putting on the suit. It's putting on the armor. You know, it gets you into that mode. And so if I know I'm going to be doing a session for Master Chief, that process for me begins a couple of days before the session. You start, because you know, oftentimes it's been months or, you know, many times years since the last time I did it. So you sort of have to gear back up again and, you know, work that muscle a little bit. And so yeah, I slap on the boots and then away we go.
All I'm thinking about is it's like a couple years in between. You got these old boots. Do you like some bowling shoe spray in there? Like I feel like
they're right next to the bowling.
Okay, because the people that use the booth after you, are we concerned about them? Because
yeah, I would be very concerned about them if I was
okay.
Yeah, and you know,
Steve was in here doing Halo again.
Yeah.
Oh man, it smells.
Yeah, my wife has looked at those boots in a way that's not comfortable, so I have to kind of keep them out of sight. You know.
Okay, that's good.
They may disappear one day. You know.
That's super cool that you're able to just draw. I guess it makes sense because, you know, it's kind of this intangible thing. It is a voice of a character. There's no real. It's not like
it doesn't really exist.
Yeah, you're not like an actor that puts on a costume and they're on set and they're in that character. So you kind of need to have something to kind of keep you as a marker.
Exactly, that's exactly right. And the very first time I did with Combat Evolved, they didn't even have an artist rendering for me. It was literally just a discussion between Marty O'Donnell and myself about what the Halo universe was and who Master Chief was. So it was just a dialogue that you end up creating this character in your mind. And yeah, to have something tangible, even if it's as silly as a pair of boots, you need something to sort of anchor your mind on it, and that's what it did for me.
Very cool. Well, there's a bunch of you out here today. I know many of you have questions, so we have a mic runner over there wearing runners. Great, because you're going to probably have to use them. There's a lot of ground to cover here. So if you have a question for Steve, you can just raise your hand, and we will do our best to try to get to everybody. I know everyone's kind of spaced out, but yeah, we'll kind
good. And we got the person who's absolutely takes the prizes the farthest away from the mic runner.
Perfect.
That's great.
Yeah, can we do that? Whatever side opposite of the room that she's on, if you could just... No, I'm just kidding. We'll help her out. Okay, go ahead.
All right, hi Steve.
Hi.
I came over and said hi to you yesterday. I was the guy in the gold armor.
Yes, oh yeah.
Came over.
You warned me, yes.
Yes, I did. And here's your security.
Excellent, thank you.
The question I have is that Halo's obviously celebrating its 20th anniversary. So what would you say is maybe like your top 5 best moments of this whole ride from 2001 to 2021?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. I would say the very first session, but to be honest, as we sort of talked, I didn't have a clue. It was just another gig. So in retrospect, obviously it was an important day in my life. At that moment, it was fun. I don't want to suggest it wasn't fun to do, but when I left, it had no special significance until months and years later. But, you know, to me, people ask what's my favorite game, and my answer is easy. It's Halo 4, because for a couple of reasons. It was the first, Jen Taylor, who is the voice of Cortana. Jen and I had never met until the 10th anniversary of Combat Evolved, so 10 years ago, almost to the day. And so it's the first time you know, I remember her saying to me, she was very happy to meet me because she said, finally, somebody else who gets this and who understood what this was like. And we became and still are very, very close friends. But months after that, we began working on Halo 4. And again, it was the first time that Jen and I actually worked together in the same room at the same time, which is unusual for voice actors anyway, in any game. But because of the nature of the story, and those of you who have played Halo 4 are familiar with the story, the Chief's relationship with Cortana was, shall we say, explored a lot more in depth, and they thought we would get a better performance if we were actually in the room together, and in my opinion, we did. And it was the most fun, it was the most challenging of any session I had ever done for the game, and in many ways it was the most satisfying. So that'd be right up there, and then really the other thing that comes to mind is this whole thing, all this. When I went to my first convention, I didn't know what to expect, and I remember it was in Miami, Florida, a Halloween weekend, as a matter of fact. And it was, I had never been to a anime convention or a video game convention. I didn't know what to expect, and it blew my mind. As I began to do more and more of these, the relationship that I've had with the fans has been pretty rewarding, and it's actually helped me, in my opinion, it's helped me do my job. When I see, what about the story or the character moves you, that affects what I will do the next time I go in to read for the character. I remember all these conversations, and I remember, the importance of the story or the character in your lives. And so that's been, it's like a feedback loop, it just, you give it to me and I give it back to you. And so this whole experience has been extremely rewarding. And then, the other thing is, sort of an overarching thing is, I'm living a childhood dream, what little boy or girl growing up didn't want to pretend like they were a superhero? And here I am, far from being a little boy, but better late than never. I get to play one, and it's fun. It's like, that joy you get, that little kid joy, if that makes any sense to you. That's been sort of the overarching joy of this whole thing. Thanks for the question.
And now look at you, like William Shatner at your panels. Look at, he's over. No, he's not over there. Oh, sorry, I thought Shatner was at his table. I was like, technically he counts as part of the audience, so make sure if he comes back, if he has a question, we'll have to throw to him first. Just saying. Now, also speaking of the evolution of the franchise and the games, more importantly, how have your golf clubs evolved as the game? I feel like you must have a really nice set of golf clubs.
I do have a really nice set of golf clubs.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I got a real idiot playing them, but. Yeah, I've disproven that golf is sort of my passion as of late, but I have disproven the theory that the more you play, the better you get. Not true. It's really not true. But it has, and it's always, every once in a while it'll come up on the course, and that's always adds to the pressure because, you're Master Chief, so they expect you to hit the ball 500 yards.
And then you hit it and they're like, you should do a couple more games, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Pay for some lessons.
Exactly. Good idea.
That's awesome. How was during the pandemic then? Is that what you kind of kept busy with? I feel like golfing is a pretty safe.
It was, and I did, and it was a very, of all the, activities you could do during the pandemic, golf was one that was pretty pandemic friendly.
It's still no better. It's still no better.
Still no. Oh no, God no. Oh no. Of course I'm not better.
Oh, that extra golf time.
No, it didn't. I tell you, it didn't work for me, and yet I continue, and yet I persist. So it's kind of a.
It'll happen. Yeah. It's like they, someone a friend of a friend once said, "Don't get out of line."
Don't get okay. All right.
It'll happen. You never know when it's coming.
Good point. All right.
Or you go to the other line at the grocery store, and then that line goes faster.
You go to that, exactly. Which invariably happens.
Or switch lines. All right, where is our mic runner? Right in the middle. And you have a question. Do you have a question? You're the mic runner. You have a question. Wait, you're both wearing the same shirt. Who works here?
I'm a volunteer, but I actually was allowed to take the hour off.
You are, okay.
I helped other volunteers.
That's okay, sure.
Steve, I just want to say, I've been a huge, long-time fan since 2001. It was
Thank you.
One of the most memorable moments in my life, playing Halo and getting to experience that, and now going for the 20th anniversary. I'm really happy you said Halo 4 is your favorite, because it's my favorite too.
Oh, great.
I found, like I was telling my brother, I found the dynamic you had with Cortana and the voice acting in that game was amazing. I think that's personally one of the best voice acted moments I've experienced in a video game.
Oh, thank you very much.
Was your role in that. Halo 4 was amazingly done. I wanted to geek out.
I appreciate that.
So
I
happy
really
that's
do.
one you said. I did have a question. You said when you were going for when you were going to Fort Lauderdale for the show, you didn't want to either play or wear the costume. You didn't say why you didn't want to wear the costume, and I'm kind of curious.
Well, because I'm not 7'5" and have 0% body fat. So, and also Bungie didn't want me to, because when this guy called to ask if I would make an appearance, I called Marty O'Donnell and said, "Is it okay if I do this?" Because I don't own any rights to the character, and they could have said no. We prefer you don't. His only condition was don't dress up as the character. So, yeah.
Okay.
And I never did ask him why. Maybe he just didn't think it was a good look for me, you know?
Yeah. So if he's walking by your place at night and looks through your blinds and sees you wearing the suit,
It could be in big trouble.
does that you're in trouble?
I could be in big trouble. Yeah.
Because we know that you did it at home though, right? Okay.
I don't like to talk about
We'll leave that ambiguous. All right.
Okay, I got another funny story for you on that note. So Tim Dadabo, who was the voice of Guilty Spark, which the players of the earlier games will know, was also from Chicago, and he's a friend of me and my wife's, who's also a voice actor. And so when my wife and I were dating, I never brought up Halo. It wasn't a topic of conversation. It was really before I was doing conventions and everything. And Timmy, who was super into the game and the whole world, he said to my wife, or my girlfriend at the time, said, "Do you ever call him Master Chief?" And she goes, "I don't really think that's any of your business. It's kind of a personal, what we refer to each other in the privacy of our own home. Let's keep it that way."
I like how it wasn't a no though.
It wasn't.
It wasn't a hard no. That was a.
It wasn't a hard no. So, which probably reveals a little more than I can do.
I feel like with two voice actors in the house, like when a telemarketer calls, it must be
Oh, we have
a
some
movie
fun.
trap.
We have some fun. Yeah, we have some fun. Not so much for the telemarketer, but we do have some fun.
Have you ever, broken out the voice and surprised fans, drive through a window, or someone on the street wearing a Halo shirt? Have you ever?
I did have a conversation with a telemarketer as Master Chief, and it was the first time a telemarketer ever hung up on me. So, mission accomplished.
That should be like a DLC pack for the next game. We gotta defeat the telemarketer. All right, we had some more questions. Okay, great. Dealer's choice. Go ahead.
So you've been playing Master Chief for quite some time, 6 games and all. Do you have a favorite line and why?
My favorite lines are your favorite lines, and it's funny because sometimes I forget a lot of the lines. Fortunately, we don't have to memorize them when we're going in to record the show. We can actually read the script, but it's the lines that use. A lot of times, at conventions or whatever, people want me to write, one of the lines of the Chief. And so what's interesting is how universal they are. So I did, the famous one when we first started. I need a weapon. Big favorite. The absolute king of the Master Chief lines is in response to the question, "Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?" "Sir, finishing this fight." Dun, dun, dun. That's a big one.
And he wasn't even wearing the right boots for that.
I wasn't even.
Wow.
I was at a handicap there.
Now,
Did the best I could.
You talked about starting out with the character without really seeing what this character looks like at that point in time. Now, when you were able to finally see it coming back for sequels and whatnot, at this point you now know what the character looks like. Was it hard to not let it influence the voice, or did it in a way kind of help evolve it or sculpt it? Because I feel like you take a shot at it,
Yeah.
and then you see it and you might be like, oh, I would have.
I completely misread it.
Yeah.
No, I don't. When Marty and I were discussing Master Chief, he was trying to give me, you know, a reference point, and his reference point was Clint Eastwood. And he said, I want you, you know, Master Chief is, he's kind of like Clint Eastwood when Clint Eastwood was doing all the old spaghetti westerns, you know, for a few dollars more and a fistful of dollars. You know, he was a strong, silent type. He didn't say much, but when he did, somebody usually got killed. And he said, that's kind of the Chief. And maybe a little Dirty Harry thrown in. But, so that was the image in my head when I was recording it. And then when I actually got to see the Chief, the beauty about, and to me the genius of Bungie in designing what Master Chief looked like is that you never see his face. And I think that was quite by intent. And when you do look into the visor of the Chief, you see your own face. And there, I think it reinforces the notion that you are Master Chief. And that's what I think they were going for in the development of the characters. So I wouldn't say that it impacted me from a delivery standpoint one way or the other. It was just nice to have some idea what it looked like anyway. You know?
Okay,
yeah.
Great, awesome. We have another question over here. Go ahead.
So the main character you've always voiced has been Master Chief. I was wondering for another Bungie game, Destiny, is there any character you would want to voice or a type of character archetype that you would want to voice in that game in general?
No. The short answer would be no. You know, the beauty and the good fortune of voicing a character as iconic as Master Chief is you do become sort of typecast. And if I had a nickel for every time I read for a character in any one of the Star Wars video games over the years, you know, I could buy you all lunch because I never got one. And part of it is, and in all honesty, you know, there are actors, I mentioned Tim Dodabo, and there's, you know, a lot of voice actors who are here at this convention today who have a really wide range. I'm kind of a one-trick pony, and I like the pony that I'm hitched to, but that really is what I do. And I can do some variations of that. I remember I did a character in a German video game that I don't think ever really got off the ground, but he was like the evil wizard, and you got to do that kind of, you know, evil wizardry type stuff, and that was fun to do. You know, I don't know that I was any good at it, but it was fun to do. But you know, I am sort of, you know, hitched to the Master Chief wagon, and it's a pretty good wagon to be hitched to. So I'm pretty happy with that.
It's true. You don't have a tattoo yet, eh, do you?
I don't have a tattoo yet, no.
Okay, when you're really hitched to the wagon, when you get the tattoo,
there you go.
That's what you...
Ain't no turning back.
Then you're officially, permanently hitched to that wagon. Okay, okay, right, there you are. There, go ahead.
All right, so you've been the Master Chief for the better part of 20 years now, off and on. Now, you have a very distinct voice. Has there ever been times when they've gotten you in the studio and they just had you say lines because they want to hear you say it?
All the time.
And if so, what are your favorite ones?
Well, I don't, you know, usually, there was one guy, it was a job, and it was what they call it industrial, which means it's not something that gets on regular television. It's for corporate videos or something like that. This was a medical thing of some sort. I remember there was a whole bunch of words in it I couldn't pronounce. But turns out they were huge Halo fans. Now, I didn't really know this going in. I thought they were hiring me because I was good. No, they were hiring me because they wanted Master Chief. But I couldn't do that kind of delivery. But when we were all done, they said, listen, would you, I got a friend who's a really big fan. Could you, you know, say, wake me when you need me? To my friend, Billy, you know. He really, and so, you know, we did the session, and then I ended up doing a half hour of, you know, Master Chief lines, you know, for their amusement. So yes, that does happen, and it happens pretty regularly.
How many voicemail greetings have you recorded at this point?
I've done a few.
Okay.
I've done a few, yeah. I've done a few this weekend actually. So.
Really? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be cool to like take you to like a Build-A-Bear where you can put the voice in the bear and you can squeeze it and then that would be.
That's a whole nother revenue stream.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, if you want
Where's
to-
my agent?
We're gonna walk to the mall
When?
later. If you see Steve and I walking in the mall, that's what we're doing. We're going to Build-A-Bear. If it's still open, I don't know. Do people still? I don't know what happened.
People still do that? Yeah.
Okay, right over there. Go ahead. What's your question?
Hey Steve, so with not knowing how big Halo was getting for yourself, did you go into the studio like one time and then your paycheck just greatly increased over the years?
Well,
I don't need to know the amount, but
yeah.
like, you know, were you surprised to see, you know, first game to, you know, the fifth game, like, did it improve?
What tax bracket are you in now?
Yeah. Sure, I don't mind talking about that.
Well, I mean, a lot of times-
anybody from the IRS here? To be honest with you, one of the great tragedies of video game work is that there are no residuals in video games. When you do commercial work or you know, television, you know, dramas or whatever, you get paid based on how many times it runs. With video games, it's not that way. You negotiate a rate, and that's your rate, and one time only, you're done. Thank you very much, and good night. But I don't mean to imply that Halo hasn't been very, very good to me. It has. But it's you know, if we were talking residuals, then I'd be coming here on a private jet instead of coach.
So every time you would like die in the game, you respawn, then you get paid again.
Yeah.
You'd have to keep track of all. Like,
In a perfect world.
there you go. That would be a hell of a residual check.
That's it.
Very cool. All right, go ahead.
Hi, huge fan by the way.
Thank
Halo
you.
4 was my first game. I was unfortunately too young for the first Halos. I was born in 2001, so Halo 4 is my first game. I wanted to ask you, first of all, like a bit of a silly question. Like, have you ever actively try and call someone with the voice of Master Chief, like with the goal to troll them and like just, you know, to you know, for them to have fun or whatever, just to have a fun time? And I also wanted to ask how you feel about someone who isn't you voicing Master Chief, because over the past 20 years you've effectively become Master Chief.
Well, no to your first question, or at least not that I can recall. And to your second question is interesting because there have been, for example, in the new TV series that's coming out next year on Paramount, Pablo Schreiber is Master Chief. He is not only the voice, he is the guy. And I don't have a role in that at all. Jen Taylor does. Jen will be reprising her Cortana role. But you know, I mean, would I have liked to have done it? Sure, but it wasn't realistic, and Pablo's going to do a great job. And from what Jen tells me, they finished shooting on the series, and hopefully it's going to be off sometime next year. And there have been, what was the other short film? Halo.
Forward Unto Dawn.
Thank you, Forward Unto Dawn. Was also not me, and the reasoning was they wanted, it took place in a period of time before the events of the first game. So they wanted, Chief was really kind of almost a teenager at that point. They wanted somebody who sounded a little younger. So there have been other characters who have participated in Master Chief. But, you know, they're going to have to take the mic out of my cold, dead fingers before I'll relinquish, you know, the roles that I get to play. Because, you know, I just have too much damn fun doing it. So, so if anybody's got any ideas, just put them away. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Also, as a voice actor, I feel like the job security is a little bit higher. You don't have to worry about aging out of a role or changing your, you know, you got,
Yeah.
if your look changes too much or whatever it may be, you can like really play the character for as long as
In
you
theory.
can. Yeah.
Now, I will tell you, in all honesty, there was a point, it was actually Halo 4, coincidentally. That was the first game, the first non-Bungie game, and 343 took it over. Microsoft developed a whole new division, for video games, and their first release was Halo 4. And as is often the case in this kind of work, they wanted to have their own mark on it. They did replace me, and they did replace Jen. They had two new voice actors, one for Cortana, one for Master Chief. This is all unbeknownst to me, but this is what happened. And now I've met some of you people have already beta tested Halo Infinite, right? I don't know if any, yeah. So they do that for every game, and it's sort of a way to get the bugs out of the game and see what people like, don't like, what works, what doesn't work. So when they beta tested Halo 4, the main feedback they got was, yeah, the game's great, but that's not Master Chief and that's not Cortana. I don't know who those people are, they look like it, but that's not them. So that's when they came back to me and to Jen and said, would you like to do Master Chief again? Unfortunately, I didn't know the backstory because I would have negotiated a hell of a lot better deal. Because we really had him up against the wall at that point. But the point of the story is it was the fans who dictated that action. And so that's whenever I get a chance to do these kind of things and meet you guys face to face. Even though you may not be that one particular person, it was the fans who kept us in the game, and now they're stuck with us. So,
yeah, that's very cool.
So thank you, is my point.
Yeah, it's cool just to play, of all the characters, one that's become kind of this, generations like, Super Mario, or, it's like such an iconic that really kind of embodies this generation of gaming, and that's you, and that's people walking around in costume, and there's action figures and stuff. Like it's gotta be cool to kind of see how this thing is really, on a grand scale, really grown and become such a large, really transcended the games and become bigger than the games over these years.
Well, it had, and then all the offshoots of the game, the books and the comic books, and now a new TV series and some animated stuff. It has become this larger than life, and the only way that I've really been able to understand that, not being an active gamer myself, this is how I connect to it, is seeing your reaction and the joy that you've gotten from it over the years. As I said earlier, it informs me to the character and to the world, and it's fascinating to watch, and it's great to have some little part in it, to be along for the ride.
It's very cool. We have one other audience question. Let's go over to you. Go ahead. What is your question?
Hello again.
Hi there.
Well, first off, I would like to say I have been playing Halo since it was my very first Xbox game, so I'm super excited to be meeting you. So, and Halo 4 is also my very favorite game. I love at the end of when you play through the legendary, you actually will see a part of Master Chief's face when his helmet comes off. I love that. But my question is, you didn't bring up the TV series. I was going to ask you, are you planning on watching the series yourself?
Oh my God, yes. Are you kidding me? I'll be all over that. It's going to be interesting, and they've already. I'm not giving anything away when I say that they're taking the story in a little bit different direction, while still being true to the canon. When you jump media, and this has been the problem sometimes why some, probably more often than not, a video game story makes the jump to the silver screen and it doesn't quite work, because it's a different medium. You can't do Halo the video game in a 9-part miniseries. It won't work. So the mistake that I think that some people make is trying to kind of force that square peg into a round hole. So I don't know what the story is going to be, but I know it's going to be different than the game. So if you approach it from the point of view that you're going to sit down and play Halo, you're probably going to be disappointed. If you approach it with more of an open mind and understand that it's a different medium that the story is being expressed through, I think it could be a real enjoyable experience. I mean, we'll see. You know, it hasn't. It's not out yet, but I'll be all over it to watch it for sure.
I heard no guns and fighting environmental issues now.
Exactly, and no horses are hurt.
Yeah,
in the making
yeah.
of it, as far
And
as
it
I
all takes place in a high school.
And it,
They're
how
really.
did you? Now you blew it for everybody.
Sorry to spoil it for you. It's really, it's like Saved by the Bell meets Heartland. All right, go ahead. What's your question?
Hey Steve, I've been a fan since 2001. So
Where are you? I lost you. Oh, there. Sorry. Okay.
My question again also is kind of relating to Halo 4, which I think is fantastic. So in the story for Halo 4, there's kind of a marked effort to make Chief seem a little bit more human. So I was kind of thinking, what were your thoughts on how the character has evolved and how your portrayal has also changed to kind of reflect that?
Well, it was, you know, when I finally saw the script for Halo 4, I was thrilled because throughout the first 3 games, I thought there was there was a bigger story to tell, other than this, you know, the Chief barking out orders and you know, shooting up grunts. I thought there was and the whole dynamic between Cortana and Master Chief was, to me, a fascinating one. You know, you know, it's like, I think in Halo 4 is the line of, I can't remember the exact line, but it's something about, she said that to me once. Which one of us is human and which one of us is the machine? Something like that. I think I'm paraphrasing. But the point is, that's an interesting, because in many ways Cortana is more human than Master Chief, and Master Chief is the one who's actually at least has some human parts to him, where Cortana is, you know, an AI. But that dynamic, and then were they friends? Were they just comrades? Were they lovers? You know, Cortana was made by, you know, really made in the image of Dr. Halsey. So what's that dynamic between Halsey and the Chief? So there's all these little sort of, you know, spider webs that go out from the center of it that I think make for a fascinating story. And we finally got to dig a little bit into that in Halo 4, maybe to a lesser degree in 5, and we'll see what happens in Infinite. But I just think that they did create a story that can go in a lot of different directions, and to me that's fun. You know, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, a lot of love for Halo 4. Show of hands. Halo 4, favorite game? Is that the favorite?
Awesome.
Okay.
They're just saying that
split.
now, Tanner. What they really mean is Halo 3. Come on.
Yeah, okay, there we go, okay. So I feel like we just got the Halo 4 questions. We're gonna divide this panel next time into each game specific.
There you go.
All right, we've got time for, I think, one more question, so let's go over to you, and you're the last one. No, I mean, not like there's a pressure or anything, but if it's not good, I'm just saying, no, just kidding, go ahead.
Okay, so, hi Steve, I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank you.
Love playing with my brother. So I was thinking that in the past games, it's never really discussed much, but like in the newer games by 343, like Cortana seems to like despise like Dr. Halsey. I was wondering how yourself or Chief felt since he was basically like robbed of his own childhood and never got to grow up.
Again, a fascinating part of the story. I mean, you mentioned the part about Chief being robbed of his childhood. That never really comes out in any of the games. But if you read the books, and you know, one of the things for me, one of the great advantages I had after Combat Evolved was this series of books that came out that just fleshed out this story, that being an integral part of it. That you know, he was basically kidnapped as a child. His parents, he never really knew his parents, and we never knew what happened to them. And then he's, you know, created, you know, made into this super soldier. And you're right. How does he feel about that? Yeah, you know, there's probably nights where he doesn't feel too good about it. You mentioned the dynamic between Cortana and Dr. Halsey, and you're right. That dynamic has gone a little cuckoo from 4, 5, and possibly Halo Infinite. And it's a fascinating dynamic because, like I said, she really made Cortana in her own image, maybe in an idealized way. And now that Cortana kind of went off the rails, and Halsey is is trying to figure out what to do about that, and the choices are not pretty, and again. Pretty fascinating story for a video game, and I think it's part of what I like to think that is part of what makes Halo different than just about any other game. And I could be wrong. Like I said, I don't play a lot of video games, but I think the fact that there is such a deep story over and above the actual gameplay. The game, and it's funny because I'll meet people whose main attraction to Halo is the gameplay, and they'll skip past this, the campaign stuff, and they'll skip past this, and they just want to play the game, and that's cool. And then I'll meet other people whose passion about it is the story, and that's what I think makes the game, somewhat unique in the video game world. It is there are these different paths you can take as you sort of explore the game. So. That answers your question.
Cool. All right, everybody. I guess that's it. So give it up one more time for your Master Chiefs.
Thank you very much. Just a quick reminder, I'm heading right back to our little table over there. If you haven't got something signed yet and you want that or a picture taken, I'll be there until I fall over, which could be soon. And thank you very much for being part of the Halo universe. December 8th. Remember December 8th. Thank you very much.